Okay.
Just getting capoed up. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another session of Busking from Home. The subject tonight is Gram Parsons. I hope you'll excuse my rather lengthy introduction to the music of Gram Parsons. For me, one of the pleasures of Busking from Home is the opportunity that it does provide to explore the work of musicians that I admire. And I guess the teacher in me wants to share that experience with you all. Hope you don't mind. So Gram Parsons, he's the subject of today's music, and one of my favorites. He died 45 years ago this September at the age of 26. He's now, of course, recognized as one of the most creative of all country rock performers, and he's certainly one of the most enigmatic, torn and frayed as he's been described. He's something of an American legend, uniting as he did the worlds of country music and rock and roll. Born in Waycross, Georgia, Gram Parsons grew up in a southern background alive with tragic Gothic undertones. His father, a local country artist, shot himself when Gram was only 12, and this may have sown the seeds of those demons that later destroyed him. In the early 1960s, Gram attended Harvard University. Oh, I'll pause us there because I see Bella towards my right. And I must show you too. There, now Bella, study Bella. Bella has just been groomed at a local grooming parlor, and I think you'll if I can hold her. She doesn't want to perform, but she's just been groomed at a local dog parlor and does look like a little princess. And I'll show you other images. No, she doesn't want to perform. No, she's away. Sometimes she comes and sits beside me and listen, but today, acting the princess, she doesn't want to behave. So back to Gram Parsons then. In the early 1960s, Gram attended Harvard University, but like Kris Kristofferson, his main interests always lay in music. In 1965, he co-founded the International Submarine Band, playing country music influenced by the likes of Merle Haggard and Buck Owens. This clearly reflected Gram's commitment to country music, but it had very little appeal at the time in New York or LA, where musical tastes were shaped by rhythm and blues and psychedelia. In his quest to find a platform for his musical ideas, Gram Parsons joined that stellar band, The Byrds, in 1968, and with the album Sweetheart of the Rodeo, rapidly turned them into a country band. Typically, fallouts in the band led quickly to the departure of Gram Parsons, along with another Byrds member called Chris Hillman, to form what became known as the Flying Burrito Brothers. This was perhaps the happiest period in Gram Parsons' short career. The Burritos were an LA band, but one with their hearts clearly in Southern R&B. Their first album, The Gilded Palace of Sin, in 1969, was a landmark in country rock. pointing the way towards music like that of the Eagles in the mid-70s. Unhappy, however, when the Burritos' music began to veer away from his original concept, Graham Parsons left the band in 1970 and virtually drifted into obscurity. This was a dark period for him, and his drink and drugs problem began to deepen, a product of his upbringing in Georgia and a deep sense of frustration at the failure of his musical projects. John Corneal, a veteran country drummer who knew Graham Parsons very well, having played behind him in the International Submarine Band and in the Flying Burritos, sums up Graham's problems in this way. Graham was always looking, being in one band, but always looking at another and wishing he was in that band. And when he gets the band of his dreams, he'd rather get drunk and watch the Rolling Stones. 1973 gave Graham Parsons the chance to form the band of his dreams, and with the backing on vocals of Emmylou Harris and James Burton on guitar, he produced the two albums upon which his reputation largely rests. The first, GP, early in 1973, saw Graham Parsons returning to his country roots to produce what he called cosmic American music. There's no rock influence anywhere on it. It's a country album about country music itself. And with support from a very young Emmylou Harris, it features some of the finest duet singing ever put on record. The second album, Grievous Angel, was released in January 1974, after Graham's death. This contains some of his best writing and is delivered with a tenderness and a sorrow which somehow anticipates his tragic end. In between GP and Grievous Angel, Graham and Emmylou undertook a 6-week American tour in the summer of '73 with a band they named the Fallen Angels. Although ultimately a success, the tour was chaotic and disorganized, and the drugs and alcohol abuse which accompanied it may have hastened Graham Parsons' end on the 19th of September 1973 at the Joshua Tree Inn, California. He was 26. Here's a famous photo of Graham Parsons, age 22, from his time with the Flying Burrito Brothers. He's wearing that outrageous suit designed by the famous rock outfitter called Nudie, with its mix of cannabis plants and poppies. It's a perfect statement of a young man's philosophy. And I'm wearing this jacket today as a tribute to him. I'm also playing an historic guitar, which I like to think, it's this guy here, an historic guitar, which I like to think has some connection with Graham Parsons. It's an Epiphone Texan from around 1963. By that time, Epiphone had been bought up by Gibson, and Gibson made this model from 1957 onwards in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I bought this guitar in Leicester in the autumn of 1973. It was pretty beat up at the time, and I guessed that it had done some serious time in a rock band, that there are so many dints and holes in it and damage done to it that it could never have been used by a folk singer or a folk musician. I guess it was used to front a rock band. I think that it may have found its way to Leicester through a guy called Rick Gretsch, a famous rock musician who had played in bands like Family and Blind Faith and had worked with Graham Parsons on his famous GP album early in 1973. Subsequently, Rick, now a fading rock star, returned to his native Leicester and may have sold this guitar to raise some cash at a time when he was quite hard up. So just think, Graham Parsons himself may have strummed this very guitar. It's a fanciful theory, but there's some support for it in this photograph I'd like to show you of Graham Parsons, age 22, playing at the famous Altamont concert in California back in 1969. He's playing there with the Burrito Brothers and was backing the Rolling Stones. You see him in fine form, knocking hell out of a guitar, which turns out to be an Epiphone, not an Epiphone Texan, but an Epiphone Frontier. But it has a lot of the superficial damage, which I can identify on my own guitar. Has a different finger plate. It's got characteristic cactuses and lassos on it. But if Graham played that Epiphone, maybe he played mine as well. It's just a theory. The songs I'm singing today come from his last two albums, GP in 1973 and Grievous Angel, issued posthumously in January 1974. I should, of course, point out that without the backing of fiddle and pedal steel guitar and the vocals of Emmylou, my versions of Graham's songs are a pale imitation of the original. But I hope they will encourage you all to go back to the originals. I'll start with a few songs from the GP album. We know it's wrong to let this fire burn between us. We've got to stop this wild desire in you and me. So we'll let the flame burn once again till the thrill is gone. Then we'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. We're two people caught up in a flame that has to die down soon. I didn't mean to start this fire, neither did you. So tonight, when you hold me tight, we'll let the fire burn on, and we'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. Each time we meet, we both agree it's for the last time. But out of your arms, I'm out of my mind. So we'll taste the thrill of stolen love, night until the dawning. Then we'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. We're two people caught up in a flame that has to die down soon. I didn't mean to start this fire, neither did you. So tonight, when you hold me tight, we'll let the fire burn on, and we'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. And we'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. We'll sweep out the ashes in the morning. The next one from the same album, GP, is The Streets of Baltimore. Well, I sold the farm to take my woman where she used to be. We left our kin and all our friends back there in Tennessee. Well, I sold the farm to take my woman where she used to be. And we left our kin and all our friends back there in Tennessee. And I bought those one-way tickets she had often begged me for, and they took us to the streets of Baltimore. Well, her heart was filled with gladness when she saw those city lights. She said the prettiest place on earth was Baltimore at night. Well, a man feels proud to give his woman what she's longing for, and I kinda like the streets of Baltimore. And I kinda like the streets of Baltimore. When I got myself a factory job, I ran an old machine, and I bought a little cottage in a neighborhood serene. And every night when I'd come home with every muscle sore, she dragged me through the streets of Baltimore. Well, I did my best to bring her back to what she used to be. Then soon I learned she loved those lights more than she loved me. Now I'm going back on that same train that brought me here before, while my baby walks the streets of Baltimore. While my baby walks the streets of Baltimore. Streets of Baltimore. And the final one from the GP is Kiss the Children. Well, it's sad my life has been so free and easy. I'll tell you now the story isn't so, 'cause I've spent a lot of time down on the corner, tasting beer, spilling whiskey on the floor, Such a shame, it's so hard for me to tell the truth. But by now you know the kind of man I am. So don't turn away your pretty face from me, dear. 'Cause there's kids here and they don't understand. One more night like this would put me 6 feet under. But my heart will still be fighting for your love. Just remember, little darling, that I love you. And kiss the children for me, please, before you go. So don't play this crazy game with me no longer. 'Cause I won't be able to resist my rage. And the gun that's hanging on the kitchen wall, dear, is like a road sign pointing straight to Satan's cave. And the gun that's hanging on the kitchen wall, dear, is like a road sign pointing straight to Satan's cage. Kiss the children. So let's move on now to Grievous Angel. One of the best tracks on this album is Love Hurts, a wonderful duet between Graham and Emmylou. Of course, it's an old Everly song, but I think that they make it their own in this version. Emmylou is age 24 at this time to Graham's 26. The bond of affection between the two is evident throughout the two albums that I'm featuring. And Graham's death in September 1973 was a devastating blow to Emmylou. Love hurts, love scars, love wounds, and mars any heart not tough or strong enough to take a little pain, take a little pain. Love is like a cloud, holds a lot of rain. Love hurts, oh, love hurts, oh, love hurts. Well, I'm young, I know, but even so, I know a thing or two. I learned from you. I really learned a lot, really learned a lot. Love is like a stone, burns you when it's hot. Love hurts, oh, love hurts, no, love hurts. Some fools rave of happiness, blissfulness, togetherness. Some fool themselves, I guess, but they're not fooling me. I know it isn't true, I know it isn't true. Love is just a lie, told to make you blue. Love hurts, oh, love hurts, no, love hurts. Love hurts, love scars, love wounds, and mars any heart not tough or strong enough to take a little pain, take a little pain. Love is like a cloud, holds a lot of rain. Love hurts, oh, love hurts, love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Love hurts. Final song of Graham's is In My Hour of Darkness. It's a song loaded with premonition, and certainly the second verse, with its focus on a young country star headed for destruction, smacks of self mythology. So In My Hour of Darkness. In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. Once I knew a young man when driving through the night, miles and miles without a word, just his high beam lights. Who'd ever thought they'd build such a deadly Denver bend, to be so strong, to take so long as it would till the end. In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. Another young man safely strummed his silver string guitar. He played to people everywhere, some said he was a star. But he was just a country boy, simple songs confess. The music he had in him, so very few possess. In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. Then there was an old man, kind and wise with age. He read me just like a book, never missed a page. And I loved him like a father, loved him like a friend. And I knew his time would shortly come, I did not know just when. In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. Oh Lord, grant me vision, oh Lord, grant me speed. In my hour of darkness. Graham Parsons, of course, had a deep admiration for the work of Hank Williams, and the echoes of that great man and his music are very evident in Graham's last two albums. I thought it might be appropriate, therefore, to close with Hank Williams' song Lost Highway, a fitting epitaph, I think, for both men. stone, all alone and lost. For a life of sin, I paid the cost. When I pass by, all the people say, just another guy on the lost highway. Just a deck of cards and a jug of wine, and a woman's lies makes a life like mine. Oh, the day we met, I went astray, started rolling down that lost highway. I was just a lad, nearly 22, neither good nor bad, just a kid like you. And now I'm lost, too late to pray. Lord, I count the cost of the lost highway. Now, boys, don't start to ramble round on this road of sin, or you're sorrow bound. Take my advice, or you'll curse the day you started down that lost highway. I'm a rolling stone, all alone and lost. For a life of sin, I paid the cost. When I pass by, all the people say, just another guy on the lost highway. Just another guy on the lost highway. So, Lost Highway. I hope you enjoy that. I certainly enjoyed it, as you probably guessed from my long introduction. But certainly the work of Graham Parsons needs revisiting. He's such an influential guy and such a beautiful voice. And so young, 26 when he died. Emmylou, by the way, is 69 this year. Graham would have, of course, been 71 had he survived. Taking a break next week for various reasons. So I'll see you all again, I hope, on the following Sunday, September 23. And I'll finish off now with a reprise. Love hurts, love scars, love wounds, and mars any heart not tough or strong enough to take a little pain, take a little pain. Love is like a cloud, holds a lot of rain. Love hurts, oh, love hurts, oh, love hurts. Well, I'm young, I know, but even so, I know a thing or two. I learned from you. I really learned a lot, really learned a lot. Love is like a stone, burns you when it's hot. Love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Some fools rave of happiness, blissfulness, togetherness. Some fools fool themselves, I guess, but they're not fooling me. I know it isn't true. I know it isn't true. Love is just a lie told to make you blue. Love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Love hurts. Love scars. Love wounds and mars any heart not tough or strong enough to take a little pain, take a little pain. Love is like a cloud, holds a lot of rain. Love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Oh, love hurts. Thank you. Bye-bye. Just a reminder about Graham's guitar, if it was. There it goes. Just look at the marks on that. That was surely Graham's doing. There you go. Graham's guitar. You heard it live. Bye, Fiona. That's it. We can maybe play it back and see what it sounds like. Oh.